The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
12 News at 10 starts now.
This is 12 News. I'm Kevin Steele. Erica Harris has the night off. Thanks for joining us tonight. Texas officials are in the process of figuring out an administrative system for the state's medical marijuana program. Last year, Governor Greg Abbott signed the Compassionate Use Act into law. Now it's a matter of overseeing it. 12 News reporter Rebecca Trejo joins us with how soon we may be seeing marijuana distributors. Rebecca?
Kevin, the state estimates they'll license the first medical marijuana dispenser or distributor by the summer of 2017, but organizations may start applying as early as this summer.
I was excited about it.
It's how Corey Mendez, the deputy director of a legalization advocacy group, describes how he felt when the Compassionate Care Act became law. It allows people with intractable epilepsy whose seizures can't be controlled with traditional drugs to take a medical marijuana oil.
It's a historical mark for Texas to recognize that cannabis or marijuana has any medicinal value to it.
Mendez is an advocate for the safe use of cannabis with the Southeast Texas chapter for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, or NORML. They meet monthly at the Log On Cafe in Beaumont. That's where I was told by Mendez it will be difficult to become a medical marijuana dispensing organization under this law.
Some very stringent requirements to get into it. It's not just something like where you go, okay, I'm applying for a license, I have a debilitating illness, I want to grow this many plants. It'll be a long process.
Among the requirements to apply, you must list the names, date of births, and addresses for all employees and disclose their criminal history. You must also have the financial ability to maintain operations for 2 years from the date of application. There's also a $6,000 application fee, and it will cost the same amount to renew a dispensing license every other year. Mendez says quite a few NORML members were interested in dispensing medical marijuana, but
as they went along and heard all the stuff that was involved in it, I think it complicated their interest.
However, he believes if more people grow marijuana, even for recreational purposes, which are now illegal in Texas, it'll be an economic boost.
It would open up an enormous economic boom for Texas.
As for the type of medical marijuana issued, it will be a low THC cannabis dosage. This means the chemical responsible for getting users high will be low. Rebecca Trejo, 12 News.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Ready for another day, another week, Here we go. The big holiday yesterday. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. What did you do on Martin Luther King Jr. Day? Anything? A lot of people worked yesterday. Not everybody gets MLK Day off, guys. It is a federal holiday, though, so you're not getting any mail. You're not taking anything to a lot of banks. A lot of the banks are closed. Sometimes you'll find a credit union open. I'm just kidding. Is it just me, or are the credit unions all becoming exactly like the banks? I don't know. Welcome to the program. It's the Full Melt Show. I'm Steve Green with the Frog Voice. Not always this way. Hopefully it's not a permanent trait. I'll be very disappointed if this is a permanent trait. This is dirty. Damn it. Here we go. That's a little better. Killing me. All right, is that better? Oh, good God. There we go. Hello. Testing. Earth to somebody. There we go. That's better. Not that you need to hear any more of my froggy voice. Boy, it was not clear there for a minute, though, was it? So when I started looking at what was going on this week, I guess I got, well, it's always a mixed bag of feelings for me with what's going on right now, because there's so many things that are positive that are happening and so many things that are really kind of negative that are happening. And some things that used to be positive are now sometimes turning negative, and some things that used to be negative are sometimes turning positive. I don't know who put what in the water, except in Flint. But something's not right? I mean, let me just clarify. So there, it used to be that all pot was illegal, right? And then there were some states that said, okay, we're going to do this medical marijuana thing because after we looked it all over and whatever we did, we decided as a state where medical marijuana stands. So people need to have safe access to medical cannabis here. And then it's been the determination of what is safe access and then also what is medical cannabis. I mean, those are questions that have to be answered before you can step forward in that pathway. Some places have said, at least one place has said, let's do both. We'll do medical marijuana and retail marijuana. Gung-ho all the way in. That didn't work so well either. Much to the dismay of some of my, comrades, some of the people that I would consider colleagues in the medical marijuana news industry, or, I guess people who were hot on the news, kind of paying attention to all the things happening, and then deciding that, wow, not a lot of people are doing what I'm doing in way of, gathering information and kind of getting fresh stuff and following the trail. It's really a lot of work. So generally people don't tend to do it, but they leave it up to people like me and other people like me that was redundant, wasn't it? It was. To go out there and gather the facts and then in some way deliver them to you. I've chosen this format. There are a lot of other ways I could have done this. I like this one from an idealist standpoint best. It gives me a chance to converse with you directly one-on-one, should that occur. 844-420-TALK is the number here at the studio. Got several open lines. They're all open lines. It is not an open line night, but I guess it can be an open line night. If you want to call and talk about anything cannabis, just go ahead and give us a jingle. This is only going to work if you're listening live. If you're listening to the tape show, obviously you can't call something that's already been taped. We do tape this show as it rolls, and then it's available immediately after the program ends. We're here from Monday through Friday, 7 till 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I guess it's Eastern Daylight Time. I got into a rut with the Eastern Standard, Eastern Daylight. It's daylight time. And so we dig up this information, and I guess I started out with this as what's strange, what's odd, okay, well, the first thing that's odd is the idea that, you've got a state like Idaho, which, is a Johnny-come-lately to the medical marijuana bandwagon, so to speak. In my opinion, a day late and a dollar short, just like Florida. Now, mind you, I don't mind that these places have done this. I think any kind of crack in the doorway is a good crack in the doorway. Because it allows people to, from their own comfort zone, stand and observe and understand and educate themselves. And then when people make other proposals about how this shouldn't be just CBD-only oil. See, cannabis is a whole plant medicine, and that is part of what makes everything work. If you look at the early research done in Israel, there's what's been coined as an entourage effect, which is a summary effect of all of the other cannabinoids at play. They're very small, but they're present, and they're in varying amounts depending on which strain you have and whether it's indica or sativa, and whether it's well cured there's a whole lot of factors that go into this. This is why medical science does not like cannabis, because they can't pigeonhole it, they can't buttonhole it, they can't refine it into one particular thing and make it work. And so I think it's a bit strange that, medical science doesn't want to accept that there's a variance in the plant community that doesn't allow for them to buttonhole it like they do the other plants. The other plants don't have this synergy going for them. I can think of no other plant that has an entourage effect. Zero. So just what is the entourage effect? So look at the movie The Entourage. Or look at the was it a movie? I guess it was more of a series. You've got the main star, And then you've got all the people that support the star that run around with the star all day and handle the star's affairs because so much circles around that sun. But absent all that entourage, the effect would be very, very different, wouldn't it? Star steps into a room without the entourage, gets mobbed, might get assaulted, has no introduction, catches people by surprise. It's an awkward and uncomfortable position. Say if you're standing in a Kentucky Fried Chicken and suddenly somebody, I don't know, like J-Lo comes out of the bathroom. It's not a normal situation. It's uncomfortable for both the crowd and for J-Lo. Now, the crowd might be excited, but they are also going to scratch their head going, where the hell is the entourage? Where the hell is her security staff? Where's her personal handler? Where's all these people? I guess at some point you might not ask. I think most people would think that a star of that stature is going to have a group of people around them in a public place. It's just what people have come to expect. Same thing goes the other way around. The star is completely out of their element if they don't have the entourage there to handle all of these other affairs and details. They can't be a star if they're busy worrying about their security. They can't be a star if they're busy answering questions that they're untrained to answer in front of the public. You know, I'm talking about the press. You know, because where there are stars, the press comes. Either cameras or microphones. Sometimes video. You know what I'm saying? It puts the star out of their element, and it makes them less star-like. It does. It makes them more normal. This is why people are excited about it. Hey, you're like me. No, they're not. They're not like you at all. Without the entourage, you don't get the entourage effect, and part of that is the star power. It's the potency with which the star appears. If the star pulls up in a subcompact Toyota that might be up there in maybe older model vehicle, and gets out and goes and uses the restroom at a gas station, and then climbs back in there. It's just not what people are going to expect, and the star is not going to either. This is why they don't do it. There's always the entourage. And I guess that's the best example I can come up with. But I guess it really doesn't rise to the potency that I wanted it to, I suppose. Without the other assistance from all these other smaller cannabinoids, and there's some 68 identified, there might be more than that, you don't get the entourage effect. So we'll talk about the strangeness of cannabis a little bit. I got to bring back, when we come back from the break, I'll play you a piece that came in about last week's conversation about Thai stick. And then we'll talk about some of the other strangeness in the cannabis news. Coming up next on the Full Melt Show. Don't go away. You're getting the Full Melt. When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law at RudoyLaw.com. RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana and up-to-date news. That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
RootMetrics, in the nation's largest independent study, tested wireless performance across the country. Verizon won big with 153 state wins. AT&T got 38, Sprint got 2, and T-Mobile got 0. Verizon also won first in the U.S. for data, call, speed, and reliability. AT&T got text. Stuck on an average network? Join Verizon, and we'll cover your cost to switch.
It's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this. Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dort Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
Hi, I'm Kavai. I'm calling from Shingle Springs. I remember the Tri-Sticks back in the 70s. Now I'm talking 74 through about 79 is when the Tri-Sticks were really heavy down in Southern California. Now, it was a big, thick stick. It was that had bud wrapped around it. I want to say it was probably the size, a little bit bigger than a quarter, a little bit less than a 50-cent piece all around. And the bud was on it in such a way and kept on it in such a way that the string that held it on was actually a piece of fiber from the actual stalk itself. And the ones that we received were not laced with opium, as is famously declared just by so many people, but it was some of the best bud I ever smoked. We called it Buddha Thai. Yummy. Memories.
Memories, he says. Buddha Thai. Oh, let's see, get this again. Jeez. There's got to be a way to fix this. There has to be a way. Is it better yet? There, it's a little bit better now. Buddha Thai. That's interesting. I can see why they would call it Buddha Thai. So this drain, see, there goes again. This is bad. Hang on. It's just cracking in and out. It's just, it's driving me insane. Is it better now for a minute? It better be better for a bit. So that's the strangeness of that's one of the strange things about cannabis in general. So you got the entourage effect, and then you got these things like, I don't know, almost sometimes mythical things that some people hear a lot about but never see. A lot of people have seen Thai stick. There was somebody that mentioned to me that they had recently seen Thai stick. I don't think it's coming from Thailand anymore. And this guy that you just heard just said that hey, the Thai stick that he had come in contact with a long time ago back in the day in Southern California wasn't. He just pretty much said it wasn't real Thai stick because it wasn't what you were getting from Thailand. It didn't have the opium in it. I think if you look up the definition of Thai stick, if you look it up, all of the references always refer to cannabis mixed with opium. So this is part of the weirdness. It goes down to the medical marijuana strains, right? See, you don't have these guys that are breeders coming up with. It's hard to get people to pay attention to digits, right? This is Pheno 1 strain 2 sativa, and then it's crossed with Pheno 237 strain 17 indica. Or hybrid. How are you supposed to make heads or tails of what that means? So growers end up coming up with names that you can, I guess, probably relate to, or not. It certainly is descriptive generally of what is in the package. Not always. Sometimes sometimes people will sell something as one thing and it's another thing. I've found this a few times. And then you've got these arguments like, and then we're just talking about cannabis itself. There's a lot of other stuff that surrounds this. I'm just giving you the base in the middle here. If you're talking about, I happen to have access to a variety of sour diesel that I know from plant biology, and I know from my own experience with this particular plant that it is mostly indica. It's an old school breed of sour diesel. It is sour diesel. It's got all the traits. but except it's got a heightened, I don't know, lemony kind of, I don't know, very sour smell and flavor to it. But it is 100% definitely, it leans indica, in fact. It's not even, what's that? Something. It doesn't even, it's not, doesn't have indica in it, because most people, if you talk about sour diesel, they'll describe it as a sativa. If you ask them how long it took to grow, I'll bet you they wouldn't tell you anything more than 8 or 9 weeks. That's indica. This is just, some people might say, hey, I have like a 12-week sour diesel that's all sativa. Well, it's all in the name, isn't it? When it comes down to that. That's just so there's some of these weird things about people want to, maybe most people that had the experience with sour diesel do have a sativa variety. I'm sure that there's truthness to this. I'm not denying it. Not even arguing it. What I'm saying is there's another strain called sour diesel. It's a little older school, but it's definitely indica leaning. It's probably, 60 or 70% indica. The rest is some sativa. So you got those kind of things. The difference is that way. And then you've got the mythical things like, and it's sometimes mythical, sometimes not. I'd suggest that most people that are buying Thai stick in today's marketplace, if it's being marketed that way, aren't really buying Thai stick. They're buying something they're calling Thai stick, something that might look like Thai stick or is a rendition of what they thought would be Thai stick, but it's not Thai stick. And this is why people like to regulate. This is why they like to step in and say, we got to regulate. And that's what the story at the beginning of the program was about. The regulation of the marijuana market. They're in Idaho coming along saying, hey, and this was Texas. Idaho's doing this too. Texas is saying, hey, we're going to, do this CBD only thing. And, oh, by the way, we're not only going to limit it to just, THC, low THC CBD oil. It can be cannabis derived. It doesn't have to be hemp derived, but it's got to be it's got limits attached to it. If it tests otherwise, you're going to have to destroy it. So what a waste process that would be. So you can guarantee people are going to be growing the right thing so they don't have to destroy it and lose that money. There's a lot of money in that when it invested into it takes, if it's an 8-week plant, you're looking at 2 months of growing on the grow side, and then 2 months of blooming on the bloom side. There's at least 4 months. And then you've got the drying, and if you're doing oil only, you can't just use the cannabis. You're going to have to extract it, and there's a process involved with that. So it means you got to dry and cure it, and then you're going to have to extract it, and then you're going to have to test it. So it's going to be 5 months before, from beginning to end, cradle to grave, before it's even first available. But not only are they doing that, and it's only this thing. This one thing, and it's really only for this epilepsy deal. That's it. Only epilepsy patients get to benefit from medical cannabis. Now, that's a double-edged sword, too. The first edge of the sword is no other medical benefits are derived from cannabis in this state. That's the first sword. Everybody else falls at the feet. Everybody else gets to go to jail. We don't care how sick you are. We don't care if you're a cancer patient, an HIV patient. We don't care what the deal is, if you're pain, or if you got MS, or you got a Crohn's disease, or a whole bunch of other stuff. Doesn't matter. You guys still get to go to jail. It's only because these kids, and it's mostly kids that have it, because by the time you get older with this, if you haven't found a way to treat it, you don't sometimes survive. Sometimes this causes brain damage, and sometimes it ends up killing people. It is a deadly condition. So there's a sympathy factor. Oh, the kids. They always run back to the kids. The kids are a portion of the population. They're not the entire population. They're certainly some of the most vulnerable. What about the elderly? They're also vulnerable. Why aren't you sticking up for them with your medical cannabis there in Texas? It is a backwards thinking mentality, and much of it's fostered in fear. And so this is why I can't complain about Texas doing this, because it will open up an opportunity for people to become familiar with the plant, the growing process, and all of the intricacies surrounding it, absent the THC, which I can't believe anybody's making a big deal out of anyways. THC is a harmless substance. Oh, tell that to the FDA. You know what? The FDA's never done any studies or tests on it. because the government won't let you focus on it at all. It has no accepted medicinal value. They won't give you a permit to have actual cannabis. And if they do give you actual cannabis, it's going to be limited. And if you want to get extra, like if you needed some more to finish your study, you thought you needed this much, but you needed a little bit more, you got to go through this long, cumbersome process. And it's only the people that have been studying the ill effects of drug use or drug abuse, like the National Institute of Drug Abuse, who has control over this issue, I might add. And it's what do you want to call it? Its mission statement is exactly what it says. National Institute on Drug Abuse. Now, what kind of studies do you think they would fund? They're not going to study the positive effects of cannabis, are they? They would be undermining their own authority. They would be undermining their very existence. Do you want a paycheck next week, Mr. Director? You're not going to do a test. You're not going to conduct studies about the beneficial effects of cannabis. So there's this, it's always been a stacked deck, and intentionally. Somebody would get sued over this at some point, I would imagine, for the outright lies being told about cannabis and THC. Nobody would. If your child is on a ski hill, I always use this example, breaks his femur or her femur coming down the hill because they ran into something or they tripped and fell or they had a skiing accident, and they break their leg. Generally, right there on the spot, some doctor is going to try and apply some pain medication to them. And guess what? It's going to make them high. It's going to make them really high. I don't ever hear anybody complaining about that, ever. You know why? Because it's inappropriate. The kid's got a broken leg. He needs some pain treatment. Shut the hell up. It's not like you're sending the kid to the drug farm. You're not. It's not like it's long-term use. You're not. You're treating You're treating some pain. It drives me insane when people are talking about. There's a whole host of other drugs that you give kids that make them high. I'm not suggesting that kids should get high. I'm just suggesting that if the kid needs medicine, being high should not be a question about whether or not this is something that is okay. Just because other people choose to get high and use it recreationally, so to speak, or socially, or to use it responsibly as adults, or even the people that don't, the younger people that sometimes get access to this, it's going to happen whether it's illegal or not. You better face it. Face facts instead of denying them. There's no way around this issue. It's going to happen whether you make it illegal or whether it's legal. It's just the chances are that if it's legal, you got people carding kids and you got people guarding the hen house instead of the kids just playing in the black market because it's wide open. You're not sealing any doors there with a drug war. You never have. So we're back to the subject about the strangeness of cannabis. A lot of people want to talk about juicing cannabis. How many people know or don't know if and I ask people this all the time and they always get this question wrong. Or they don't know how to respond to the question. It catches them off guard. So if you go let's just say you're anyone and you go running up to a garden of marijuana outside or inside, wherever it's at, of any type, it doesn't matter. You pick it. And you're like, you know what? I don't have time to dry or smoke this. I'm just going to eat it right here. Do you know how high you would get eating that bud? Just that one little bud? Do you know how you would get how you would get eating the entire plant? How incredibly stoned you would get eating the entire plant fresh there, just picked, assuming you could choke it down? Zero. You're not going to get high at all. Now, why would you then be able to put that same substance in something like brownies or it just like it is? Just take a batch of brownie mix and just bury the bud in the middle there. Just one whole bud right there. Bury it in there, and then, now I wouldn't suggest doing this because it would be terrible to eat. Just break it up and maybe mix it into a single brownie. You know, the single serving brownies you can bake. They got them. It's like a little easy bake oven kind of thing that comes with the package. So you crush up your bud. It's all wet. It's all fresh. So you scissor it up or whatever. You mix it in with your brownie mix and you put it in the oven. Now, why would you be able to eat that bud out in the field or just pick it off the plant and eat it and not get anything from it? But put it in the brownie mix and eat it and be like, oh, my God, I'm too high. I'm too incredibly stoned. Oh, I can't stand it. I'm too stoned. The answer, if you're in the cannabis community, you'll know the answer to this question. It's the process of decarboxylation is what it is. It's converting THCA into THC. THCA is not psychoactive. When you heat THCA, it releases the A and becomes THC. And that is the psychoactive substance. It's got to be heated. This is why when you pick the plant, try it, and roll it, and smoke it, you're going to get something. If you pick the plant, try it, put it in the baggie, and eat it out of the baggie, you're not going to get anything off that. The reason it works in the brownie is because the brownie got heated up, right, when you baked the brownie. So it's an interesting fact. It's got to be activated, and the way you activate it is with heat. This is why people smoke it. THC is a 3-chain molecule. It's got T, the H, and a C, right? It's a 3-chain molecule. So this means that it reacts differently in people. This same exact strain, if you were to take two people, put them side by side, and take exactly the same substance and give it to both, each person is going to experience something similar but different in a very unique way. And that could change. That same experiment could be conducted 2 months from now, and you might end up with completely different results. You do it again, and there would be different results yet. Another 2 months. Give it 6 more months and do it again. It would be a different. You got the same subjects, you got the same substances, but why is the effect vastly different with each one over time? Well, the answer is because some people have tolerances, some people don't. Some people are predispositioned for certain effects. Other people are not. What you ate, how big your overall THC tolerance is in the first place. Are you actively smoking? Are you not? If you're actively smoking, you're going to get much less of an effect than the person that is not. Or you don't even have to be smoking. You could be eating it at other times. So you build a tolerance that way. The difference between cannabis and many other drugs, when you build a tolerance to them, needing more and more, is that you're never, ever going to overdose with cannabis. Try doing that with heroin, and you're going to end up cold on the floor. You're getting the full melt.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
At book club, they were asking me what you're doing now, Janice. Blogging. Your blog is just pictures of you in a mirror. It's called a fashion blog, Todd. Well, I've been helping people save money with Progressive's discounts. Flo, can you get Janice a job? You should have stuck to softball. I was so much better at softball than Janice did. Where's your wife, Todd? Vacation. Discounts like homeowners, multi-policy. I got a discount on this ham. I've got the meat sweats. It's good ham, Diane. Paperless discounts. Give it a rest, Flo. Yeah, Flo, give it a rest.
We asked people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be downtimes.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. So cannabis tends to bring out, in my opinion, the strangest things in people. And I'm not talking about the use of cannabis. I'm talking about just the subject itself. If you start talking to somebody who's unfamiliar with cannabis, especially somebody who's business-minded, somebody who runs a company, somebody who's a board member on a corporation, someone who is in charge of staff and people and equipment and product movement and production. It could be anything. If you ask them about cannabis and the workplace, you're going to get eyebrows. It might be one big, what you call a unibrow. It might be you might get a unibrow. But you're certainly going to, I don't know, raise the ire of some people. Even those in the cannabis community. Because, despite the fact that people tend to psychologically or, socially buttonhole them as stoners and undesirables. And it's all, a lot of it's just leftover baggage from the drug war that's, gasping its last breaths, by the way. The drug war is about to die. At least it's beginning. It's the beginning of stages of its own death. I mean, these are the throes of death the drug war is going through because it can no longer be sustained. It's like a parasite, this drug war. It can no longer be sustained on the host on which it sucks. So it has two choices: find a bigger host to suck. I don't see that floating around. So the other option is to die, right? If you're a mosquito and you've been living off the one guy in the room for the duration of your lifetime, and the guy in the room leaves, you better hope there's something else in the room to suck off of, because if there's not, you're going to die. This is what the drug war is doing. It's a parasite. It's gonna croak because it can no longer be sustained off the host from which it feeds. These aren't sixth sense predictions or looks into the future, hopeful prospects. This is none of this pie in the sky thinking. This is just simply applying rationale thought process and what's the word I'm looking for? For crying out loud. The apparatus of measurement, the apparatus, the science, the technology. Oh, good Lord. This is applying simple mathematics and logic to current conditions. Look around you. Let it persist. In the future, what are things likely to be? That's all this is. I'm saying the drug war is dying because it's going to start with cannabis. And then the rest of the drug war won't be maintained like the way that cannabis is done. It will be handled in a way where it's switching it off from criminality and switching it onto knowledge, education, teaching, hope, giving people tools to get around addiction and become functional if they've become drug addicted. So you got the guy that's abusing cocaine or heroin or benzoids or any of these drugs. Most of those are all prescription medications anyways. Cocaine's not, heroin's not. So you get into these drugs where people have become addicted because they do have addictive properties. These are dangerous drugs. They should have some control. You lose all control of a drug when you ban it. When you say that it's prohibited and there's high punishment for those in possession or distributing or importing or manufacturing. If you're doing any of those things, big giant penalties. We've proven that this is both expensive and ineffective. It doesn't work. I mean, we would try with the mandatory minimum sentences before. It's like, oh, they're all going in and they're coming right back out because we can't house them all. We need to build more prisons. None of that worked. None of it. The drug war hasn't been impacted by it. The drugs on the street are not going away. They're just, in some cases, increasing and getting cheaper. How can you stop? If we've already seen that you can't stop citizens coming across the Texas border from Mexico particularly, or the Arizona border. There's a lot of border there, isn't there? If you got people from Mexico coming across the border and you can't account for them, or you're not catching them all, what do you think is going on with the drugs? I mean, it's just a numbers game at this point, isn't it? I mean, even the least desirable person in the social class is going to get laid at some point if he just keeps asking. I mean, it's going to get through. It's just about playing the numbers game. The more spaghetti you throw at the wall, the more it's going to stick. Long and the short of it is, when you start talking about drugs in the workplace, people get bonkers. Because they're like, oh, see how people are going to show up if you legalize this, or if you allow medical marijuana to happen. People are going to say, oh, I'm sick, I need my medical marijuana. They're going to want to go outside and smoke some weed and come back in and work. It doesn't work that way. That's the perception of what's going to happen. That's not what actually happens. Look, I'm telling you, there's people out there in your workplace doing it right now. I don't care if you drug test randomly, if you drug test when you hire people. I don't care how you're doing this. People have figured out how to get around your workplace drug tests, and they're doing their drugs at work already. You just don't know it, right? You don't have to be messed up. You don't have to be impaired. You don't have to be visually or detectably stoned or altered in order for you to be using and working. You don't have to be in that condition, and I'm telling you, there are people in workplaces all over screwed up on everything from Oxycontin to heroin to cocaine to benzos. I mean, whatever the drugs are, and most of them are prescription drugs, actually. Most of the people who are taking drugs and are altered at work are taking prescription drugs. They're easy to find. They're not dangerous to have, at least if you don't get caught up with them outside of a prescription bottle, right? So when you start thinking about a workplace that is allowing cannabis use, so you've got several states that have a responsible adult use, right? What happens when at lunchtime or sometime in the afternoon on a break, your work people outside of work are encouraged to go take a smoke break? Or right after work hours, go gather on the roof and smoke down for social reasons, right? What would you call it? Bonding, social bonding. I'm telling you, if you've got a software company, and I'd like to look into the software company statistics, because a lot of people who develop software are stoners. They tend to be cannabis users. They tend to also be young. They tend to also be very intelligent, logically oriented, linear processing. This, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this. This is how these people are. These people are creative. These people are jumbling numbers around in their head. They're trying to come up with solutions around blockades. This isn't working. Why is it not working? Figure out the place in the flow chart where there's a kink and iron it out. If it's hidden, it might be very difficult and time-consuming to do. But if you start tossing around ideas, you might come up with a way that shortens that process and saves a lot of money. So what I'm saying is there are places now, more than one, that's a plural, places, that are actually encouraging or not discouraging the use of cannabis in the workplace. I saw this story a couple of days ago, or actually probably late last week. The most frequent, or the most recent, I should say, rendition of this was actually on CNN today. Story says, at most offices in America, smoking a joint during your lunch break or eating cannabis-laced brownies at your desk would land you in HR. But in some states, not only won't you be punished, you might be rewarded. Kyle Sherman, and Chase Wiseman co-founded FlowHub, which provides software to the cannabis industry, in 2015. The Denver-based startup has been weed-friendly workplace from day one. Our philosophy at FlowHub is to get shit done, said Sherman. If it helps our employees get work done, then we don't care if they consume it at work. What do you think about them apples? Sherman and Chase both consume marijuana at work, either in weekly brainstorming meetings or towards the end of the day. It definitely surfaces new ideas and a fresh take on things, said Sherman. See, that's what I mean. They're jumbling up these ideas, throwing a little of this into the mix, and sometimes a spark happens where it wouldn't have before. When people are altered with cannabis and they start thinking about things, it doesn't really impair thinking. It just kind of puts it into a different notch, a different place. It gives you a perspective perhaps you didn't have before. It's awfully hard to stand there looking in the mirror and see what's on the top of your head. You're going to need a couple of other mirrors or some assistance for this, perhaps a camera. Looking at the back of your head is nearly impossible unless you've got some trick mirrors, and nobody's got their bathroom set up like that for the most part. You got to hold a mirror behind and look through another mirror, and then it's backwards and backwards again. It's very confusing. But when you're talking about a project, a problem, everybody's been toiling on it, and nobody can come up with a solution or a way around or an answer to this question. And now, all of a sudden, you freeze that in time and skew it and move it around to a place that you couldn't see before. It wasn't visible. It wasn't possible to see this from this perspective because you didn't have the perspective. Now that you got this perspective, now it all becomes clear. This is the answer right there. Can't you see it? It's right there. While recreational marijuana is legal in Colorado, smoking of any kind isn't allowed in the building. So FlowHub's 18 employees, most of them millennials, see all of them young, are free to bring in cannabis-infused edibles, sodas, and juices, and they'll use those in the building. So far, there haven't been any negative outcomes. Our clients are some of the biggest firms in the cannabis industry, says Sherman. We have to be on point with our work. We've never had a problem yet. Hi There and Massroots are just across the street from each other in downtown Denver. Both are social network platforms for cannabis users. And they both allow cannabis use at work. There's a bigger story. Check it out at news4sanantonio.com. It's a CNN story. It's probably also available there. We'll be back more on the strangeness of cannabis.
You're getting the full melt.
Promotional consideration provided by NoSmell.com, pioneering the storage market for cannabis users. The NoSmell patented bag technology offers users 100% smell-proof detection from even the most sophisticated of noses. NoSmell.com, so nobody knows. When placing your order for a NoSmell bag, make sure to use discount code FULLMELT and take 10% off the entire order. Learn more about NoSmell technology at NoSmell.com.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law at RudoyLaw.com. RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana and up-to-date news. That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit PetPain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. PetPain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
I was only walking through your neighborhood.
So we're working on the strangeness of cannabis today here on the program. And the big thing is, cannabis is very strange. Take, for example, the way the media talks about pot. Now, the media isn't much different than the general public at large, is it? I mean, it's just another citizen on the street, but somebody who's been trained to do some investigation and some background stuff and tell a story. Generally, the story is already crafted by the news department's director. So the news director says, here's what's going on today. I've already done the research. Here's what's happening. I'm assigning you to this story, you to that one, you to this one, and you to that one. And then if you sit down and have a meeting with the news director about your assignment, which sometimes happens, sometimes does not, the news director will tell you some insight on the story, give you a local angle on the story, give you a tie-in to a former story. He will give you some tools from which you can craft your story. But it's all been determined by the news director, not by the reporter necessarily. See, when everybody picked on Dan Rather because he said, he made this claim, right? He made this error. Now, he made a claim directly into the camera, but I just want to say this in Dan's defense, because I think Dan, first off, is an excellent journalist. Second off, everything that comes out of Dan's mouth isn't something that's Dan, although that's the way that you're going to perceive it because he said it. And this is for any journalist. Unless you're reporting out on the street, doing a live shot, what's coming out of your mouth is generally not written by you. So the anchors at the anchor desk didn't write any of that stuff. It was all written by somebody else, some other news person that you don't get to see or know or ever touch or feel or have any connection to. You will never know who these people are because they're behind the scenes. They're news producers. They produce the news. This guy is just telling you what that production is. He's just he's giving it to you. He's translating it. The news was produced by another individual or individuals. In the case of television news, especially news magazines like 60 Minutes, it's several producers all working a different angle. And they all come together and put this thing together and hand it to the guy that gets to narrate it and gets to stand in front of stuff and read a script that wasn't written by them. So when you tie this all together, you've got a bunch of everyday people that are skilled in a craft, a trade, in gathering responsible, intelligent reporting of news. But the thing is that they're just still everyday citizens. Now, if you're a news reporter and you go out and you get handed a story about cannabis, the very first thing I'm going to tell you is that your worldview of cannabis is going to be biasing that story, how you tell it, how you depict it, what you have your videographer shoot, what you have them avoid, how you edit the piece. I mean, it's all very meticulously crafted, like jewelry, but in a flash, and then it's disposable jewelry. At the end of the news day, it's thrown out. It's just tossed away into, the file. Now it's just file footage for another day. Or when you look back on history, if you're going to do a year in review, that's the only time you're ever going to see that footage again, or unless something significant happens to that person or that place. You might go back and dig out that file footage, but that's all it will ever be. After today, it's old news. And what I'm saying by this is part of the strangeness of cannabis, is the education factor. Look, I'm still learning about cannabis. Every day I learn something new about cannabis. Is it earth-shattering? No. Is it interesting? Absolutely. Because cannabis is the prism of light, called a rainbow. Like, you got light. Light's comprised of all the colors, but when you run it through a prism, you get to see them all. You get to actually see the colors contained within that white light. You mix them all together, you get white light. You run it through a prism, and you get all these spectacular colors in their purest of form, unadulterated. Same thing goes with telling the news. If you've got a guy out there who doesn't understand cannabis, brings his bias to the table, and he's going to go out and cover this story from that angle, and you get people like Kevin Sabet, who's out there as a trained media guy to tell you the evils of cannabis, guess what's going to come back on your report? Whatever your news director told you to go report on is going to be in some way negatively highlighting cannabis. It may even be the news director that started it. Hey, we don't really do stories on the news that talk about cannabis lifestyle or people. We don't tell those stories because it's too risky. It's too, they won't like it. People, regular guys will jump off. Our advertisers will complain. The news is owned by Big Pharma, by the way. Watch the news. I don't care. Local news, national news. Watch any television news broadcast and count how many pharmaceutical commercials are contained within. They pay them directly. I mean, that money comes directly from the pharmaceutical company and goes directly into paying the bills of the news production. Tell me they don't have influence on how these stories may get told. They absolutely do. So Kevin Sabet is I've known Kevin Sabet because I've seen him, I've met him, I've talked to him. He was my exposure to them was out here at there was a medical marijuana symposium held a couple years ago at the University of Detroit Law School, I believe is where it was, or was it Wayne State University? I can't remember. I think it was Wayne State University School of Law. That's where it was. Went there, and there were Kevin Sabet was there on the negative side, on the just say no side. That's N-O, not K-N-O-W, which is what it should be. Kevin is a founder of the anti-marijuana legalization organization called Smart Approaches to Marijuana, or SAM. He recently received a tip from someone associated with the Obama administration called State Marijuana Use Estimating for 2013 and 2014, which had just been released from the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, found that Colorado, which launched the country's first legalized marijuana program in 2014, now led the nation in monthly marijuana use among those 12 to 17. And this is part of the strangeness of cannabis, because everything he just said is true. But here's how it's not true. He didn't tell you the rest of the story. The rest of the story is that the development was due to part to decreases in marijuana use in other states, although marijuana use in Colorado had also increased by a really insignificant amount. From year to year, but this amount might appear and disappear year to year just in the statistical nature of gathering these numbers. This is why you have, when you do opinion polls, it's got an accuracy rating of plus or minus 4%. That percentage is questionable because it's anomalous data. It's not hard data. That 4%. So that plus or minus margin means that, hey, don't pay attention to that because it's really it doesn't mean anything. Everything below it means something. And that's where this is. It's the negligible part. So basically, what the story says, the truth of the matter is, Colorado youth cannabis use in 2013 and 2014. The difference between those years was constant. That's the truth of the matter. The statistical information says that the use was constant, but it was higher in that state than in other states because other states had actually decreased their reporting in cannabis use. Always be aware of where the money's at. The money will tell you the story, and what I mean by that is this. The statistics exist for a reason. Statisticians love statistics because they can be used for convincing you that something is good. And the same statistics, the exact same ones, can be used to convince you that something is bad. This is what they bank on. This is what they count on. This is why they have these jobs. And, statistician gets paid pretty well for what he does when he's employed. but they can tell you the truth, and the truth is always the truth from either side of the coin until you figure out that the truth is the statistician is using those numbers to manipulate you.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.